Hello, Dan MacPherson. I'm Shane, and it's really stoked to meet you. Great pleasure.
Mate, thank you very much for chatting, buddy. Thank you.
The new Bus Stop Films ambassador. I mean, that's awesome.
It's
Congratulations.
really, no, thank you. Really special organization. I was absolutely chuffed to be asked. Tracy, who runs Bus Stop Films. I was lucky enough to work with him in 2022. We did a film called Hopeful Romantic, which went on to win a bunch of awards, and it was an
Yeah,
amazing experience. I just loved being part of it. It was my first introduction to Bus Stop Films. But Tracy, who was one of the powerhouses behind it,
yeah.
um, made Peter Tonner, the chairman of the Nine organization, ask me to be the ambassador while we're at G'day LA, G'day USA this year. So
Yeah.
she pulled in the big guns to go, hey, mate, is this something that you'd like to be involved in? And it was an absolute no-brainer. Tracy also being from Cronulla, where I'm from, so we've got a connection down there. And Hopeful Romantic and Bus Stop Slate being shown on Stan. So it was all a lovely tie, and it was an absolutely perfect fit.
Yeah, it is a perfect fit and a step up for inclusion, which is great.
100%, 100% opportunities throughout the country, great programs throughout the country. And for myself, just to be able to step into that sort of mentoring role, to
Yeah,
give back to sort of film sets, to give back some of the experience that's been shared with me
yeah,
around the world for coming up 30 years now, as well as championing not only inclusivity in terms of experience, but understanding of incredibly unique points of view when it comes to storytelling. And I think that's equally as important as well.
well, congratulations on that. That role of the ambassador of Bus Stop Films, and I really appreciate it. And I hope we cross paths again so we can talk more
Yeah.
about what you're going to do.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a really wonderful group of people supporting and behind the scenes as well. And we just had the gala ball a week or two ago, and it's got a lot of momentum, and it's a great cause.
Sweet, yeah. No, I love the Australian film industry with my heart, and I'm
Mm,
an advocate of
yeah.
movies and television. Projects made here is important and diversity, so it's great.
Yeah. And I'll just have to say, Boss Cat is the first feature they have made at a bus stop. They made a lot of shorts, put on a lot of educational programs around the country. But Boss Cat is getting a premiere at the Sydney Film Festival in the next couple of weeks, which is a huge accomplishment for everybody
Massive,
involved. So yeah, the
massive.
trailer's fantastic. Definitely recommend it.
All right. Well, I'll make sure I get behind it. We're here to talk about Beast, though, and I mean, theatrically, I wouldn't say people were unaware of it, but it just kind of didn't flow into the box office that
Mm,
I was
yeah,
hoping. But
yeah.
new audiences, new eyeballs will be able to watch it streaming.
Yeah, look, I think there's a couple of factors there. One is there is a shifting nature in the way people consume film, and we call it content, but I'm still going to call it film
Yeah,
because I think film is unique, and it's got its place reserved,
yeah,
and it's earned its place to be in a very special bandwidth. And the respect and the reverence I have for cinema now is special.
yeah.
I think it's probably harder to get people into a cinema than it's ever been before. By the same token, you do have homes for films in a way that you've never had before, and particularly in the streaming platforms, and particularly in a place like Stan. Stan, I
Yeah.
think, is going to be the ideal home for a film like Beast. That said, uh, you can't you can't launch a film theatrically without an incredible amount of support, financial support, when it comes to P&A, when it comes to getting the message out there, when it comes to distributors and exhibitors, and that was just not something that we had on a project with like Beast.
Sure.
And so, we Luke Hemsworth, George Burgess, Amy Shark, and myself did as much as we could organically to get out and spread the word, and get people into the cinemas.
Yeah.
But that just wasn't gonna be sufficient. And also we didn't have the access to the screens that we probably needed. And there's a whole conversation around the qualification requirements for the producer offset, which still require a theatrical release.
Totally.
And you talk about something, the great case at the moment is obviously War Machine, which with a $77 million US budget, the difference between their producer offset or the location offset, that 10% was $7.5 million US. They had a theatrical release, which is documented in the Sydney Morning Herald, was where I read it, and that there was a 5-week theatrical release that I think grossed about 85,000 across that time. But that release was able to qualify them for an extra $7 million US in their producer offset, the difference. So I think the understanding of the role of the streaming platforms in terms of film releasing is going to need a little bit of a rethink, because you've found a perfect home for Beast, but we still need that support to put those finance plans together.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I don't want to talk business the whole interview, but
no.
it's okay. I mean, I'm all for it. But what about fishing? Your character is a fisherman. Now, to me, that looks like it'll be a lot harder than going into the octagon. Is it?
Well, I get horribly seasick, so it kind of was, mate. To be honest, we're out off Wollongong with George Burgess and myself in some pretty heavy seas, and I was pretty green around the gills, so I would have taken the octagon over the fishing boat anytime. But yeah, mate, we start the story there. Tyler Atkins, our director, he had experience as a commercial fisherman.
Oh, okay.
And between us all, the story itself was originally set in Buffalo, New York. It was set in a steel mill in Buffalo, New York. And then when we all came on board, we went, look, you got an Australian director, you got an Australian actor, we're going to have Russell involved. What do we know about life in Buffalo, New York? Know a little bit about growing up on the east coast of Australia, and there may be an equivalent that might be Port Kembla, Shell Harbour, Newcastle, whatnot. So
I'm Central Coast.
So you get it, and you understand it. So we transplanted that, and Russell and Tyler were both like, we have experience in this sort of fishing world. So it was a nice place to start the film, another great showcase for Australia.
In the role, did you suffer any injuries, or what was the biggest challenge on your body itself?
It was multifaceted in that the role tests every area of my skill set. So not only acting, character development, script development, acting opposite Russell Crowe, and being in every scene start to finish and carrying a feature film. But then in terms, I was 40 when I got the script. I was 44 when we started filming. The body fat doesn't come off quite as easily as it did 20 years ago. But I had to get into shape, and I had to maintain muscle and play a character whose nickname is the Beast is got to have a level of size and weight to him and fight his energy. But then I had to put myself through 3 years of martial arts training, and I didn't want to do any of that and not immerse myself in the grit and the realism and the intensity and the authenticity of the film. So that meant, I broke my nose and I busted some bits and tore some bits, and I tore my adductor off the bone, the octagon in Thailand, in the middle of a take that's in the film. But it was that kind of film, and I didn't want to shy away from that. And so obviously there were things I couldn't do after that injury, but in terms of a performance, this was about a guy that had the weight of the world on his shoulders. This was about a guy that every way he turned was hard work and frustrating, and nothing was flowing in his life. And so I didn't shy away from any of that, because it was great to add into the weight of the performance and the complexity of the performance. So would I jump back into it again? Maybe after a holiday, but in terms of injuries, I'm 12 months out of filming, and I'm still having physio, put it that way.
Really? Okay, so the aftershocks, the after effects are still there.
Yeah, no, exactly. I put everything into it with maximum intensity and maximum commitment, and I'm just trusting the process that I'll be able to walk properly soon.
Well, I'm sure the actor judges will be watching, and they'll have you there, and the actor awards early next year. That's sort of a performance.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. It's not often that you just have this perfect storm of the right character at the right time in your life, at the right time in your
Mm,
career, surrounded by the right level of support and artists, and Russell and Tyler, our director, and
yeah,
Dave Jerry, our writer. And it was just the right role at the right time, that I was ready to go and prove myself in a different area of my career and a different level of my career. And to have people turn around and talk about nice things like awards is puts a smile on my face. And it's a long way from turning up on Ramsey Street, a long time ago. You
well,
know.
well, I remember you from the Cup, the horse
Oh,
racing.
mate, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Simon
yeah,
Winster's film, and again, one of those ones I wish I knew more about the ins and outs of cinema, way back then, because a beautiful story, and
yep,
passionate horse racing fan, and friends with Damien Trish Oliver, and a very special story. But
true,
yeah,
true.
good Aussie film.
What other sports did you play when you were growing up? Was there any particular sport you were keen on? I mean, I'm a rugby league fan. I
Yeah,
surf. What about
yeah. My dad's from Wellington originally, so I grew up in Cronulla Sharks Town, Cronulla Sharks territory, but I
the
was rugby
Sharky?
union. Yeah, born and bred Sharky, but I played rugby union because my dad was a Kiwi, and then I started out. I started out in the front row. I was a prop, and then I was a hooker, and then I was a breakaway, and I ended up being a scrum half. And so, for anyone that doesn't sort of understand that sport, I basically started as the biggest kid on the field, and 4 or 5 years later, I was the smallest kid on the field,
Right.
and everyone had grown, and and so I kind of didn't really love that sport. It was a bit too painful, and it was a point where I was maybe realizing that having a straight nose and a face that wasn't bashed up might be helpful for my career. But then I started racing triathlons. So I was swimming, cycling,
Okay.
running. I did a lot of that. But yeah, they were the sports. Yeah, and in the surf.
Well,
Yeah.
well, sometimes footy and arts don't always mix, whether it's
Mm.
union or league. But I mean, Matt Nable, George Burgess. I mean,
Oh,
yourself
Russell, even Russell, you go great. He's a passionate NRL fan
and cricket. He loves his
and
cricket, of
cricket,
course.
and also another Sydney Boys High alumni. So Russell,
Yeah.
myself, Dr. George Miller, all
Yeah.
three from Sydney High that we managed to sit around a table in Beverly at the Beverly Hills Hotel last year and have a bit of a chat about film, which was pretty epic.
I wish I was there. That would have
Oh
been a
mate,
great conversation.
that was incredible. Just oh wow, what a moment that was. Um, but no, I think there's a real discipline that comes from sport. There's a real physicality and discipline that comes from sport that Matt Nable's always taken into his career. That
Mm,
George Burgess is a beautiful actor,
mm,
and he's got a couple of films under his belt now. He's doing really well, and he's a real natural. But to have that kind of physicality on screen is incredible. So for me, there was always a great discipline that came from sport that I was able to take into my commitment to a character and to a role and to the work ethic that I kind of needed in to succeed in this industry.
mm.
So yeah, I got a lot of gratitude for what sport taught me for sure.
Your character of Patton is pretty intense. In many scenes. There's a few
Mm.
emotional moments there, but most of it's you're jacked up and you're on. You're about to explode for obvious reasons. But did you ever snap out a character, or were you in those intense moments even when the camera wasn't rolling?
Um, I was in a sort of heightened, intense, emotional world there
I
for
thought so.
for 4 or 5 months, which is sort of how I work now. I mean, people call it method acting, people call it immersion.
Yeah.
It's just whether it works for me, and you can do it without being an asshole to the crew, So method acting gets a bad rap sometimes, whereas I like collaboration is what makes this industry work.
Of
Um,
course, I get that.
and
Yeah.
and so you can be out there, but there's no point in being deeply method in your guy at the expense of the openness of collaboration that's needed to produce a film and produce a worthy film. Um, but also, I was presenting Tyler, the director, this kind of scale of emotion because I don't know if either of us really knew what the film was going to look like once it came out of the edit. So I wanted to give Tyler sort of 1 to 10 of the emotional scale at any of these kind of really key beat points throughout the film, because I didn't know, or we didn't know, did he need to hit 10 at this point in the structure, or at this point? So I gave him, max level on a handful of scenes, and then had to speak to him afterwards. And, hey man, I never meant to be crying or screaming or whatever it was 5 or 10 times in this film. I gave you that so that you and the editor could pick the crescendo moments when you need them, and you can craft that kind of that melody as you go. So it meant that I was highly charged a lot of the time. But then also, I think it was also one of the most restrained performances of my career as well, which I'm proud of.
Yeah, no, I agree, because there's not as much fighting in it than I anticipated in the final film. But there's a lot of really emotional edge. And Amy Shark, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure she has acted in a feature like this before.
I think it's her feature debut. Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Acting, the first film, sure.
Like impressive.
Totally.
Really
Absolutely.
impressive.
Couple of naturals, and again, that's Russell's kind of fingerprints of going, hey, I think you should look at George. I think you should look at Amy. And I've said it a couple of times publicly, but I was in Amy's audition, and she walked in fully committed, fully ready to go, and it was a ferocious audition. She was fantastic. So, really, really proud, really impressed with those guys. And they bring a great new kind of fresh energy to any of us that have been around a while that could potentially be hiding any level of cynicism or jadedness. It's great to have some fresh faces on a set like that.
Did her and Russell break out into any songs on set?
To be honest, I was always in the makeup trailer getting my ears on and off. So I imagine there would have been a couple of after parties after rap while I was still getting my cauliflower ears off, and they were in their trailers singing away. But they're good together, mate. They're a fun little duo together. Yeah.
And one of my favorite actors and a friend, and I've been watching him for years, Nathan Phillips, is in the film.
Fantastic. Again, you talk about that energy. Nathan came in at so what is the first act of the film, but it was the last week of the shoot, and by that point, I've been dieting since October. We started shooting in December. We shot the final fight sequences in January 2025. Nathan came in March 2025, so it'd be almost 6 months. Wow. And mate, I was crawling to the line. You have this injection of energy that only Nathan Phillips can bring, and you'll watch it in the first 10 minutes of the film. But also, again, one of the old Melbourne alumni from when I lived down there, in the early parts of my career, and it was great to reconnect with Nathan, and really, really proud and stoked to have him on board.
Well, now people can watch it on Stan. What are your final words? Why should people tune in to watch it? Because at face value, it's MMA. Not everyone is into it.
Oh, look, I think there's been a disservice, and that may have come from overseas where Lionsgate particularly were trying to tap into that real MMA UFC crowd. Sure. But I think you've got a film that the reactions around the world have been, I didn't expect this to be so emotional. I didn't expect to be so moved by this story. I didn't expect this to be so touching, because all the trailers were about the fighting, and rightfully so, that the MMA has to be authentic for people for the entire film to work. It has to be entertaining, and it has to be elevated. But the parts of this film that I'm the most proud of, and so proud of, the heart of the film, and that's Tyler Atkins, the director, and myself really sunk everything into it. It's a story about fighting for who you love. It's a story about fighting for your identity, for fighting for your purpose. And I think for myself, around the time that I was making this movie, but I think there's a message in there for not particularly for men and women, but I think for as a 45-year-old man, there's a great lesson to guys my age, or a great message to guys my age of pushing through what was a challenging time in life for me, but fighting for your identity, for your purpose, and fighting for who you love and what you love.
Totally. And hats off to Russell Crowe for, putting his energy and world behind independent films.
100%, 100%. And look, he, as I say, when I say his fingerprints are all over it, it doesn't get financed without Russell. He championed Thomas, our cinematographer, backed
Yeah.
Tyler in there, myself, Amy, George. He was the puppeteer that really pulled it all together, and he doesn't get enough credit for the generosity that he has in so many, not just in film, but in so many other facets of what he does. Very grateful to the big man, and very
And even
grateful.
though I'm Tigers, I'm grateful he actually does this for independent film as well.
Yeah,
But
great.
even though I'm a West Tigers supporter, it's a South hat off. South
Yeah,
hat
good.
for
Yeah,
him.
I've had to do the same with my Sharkies hat a couple of times. So, although he was texting me when the Rabbitohs